Welcome to the Tyneside Irish Cultural Society podcast with me, Michael McNally. In this month's episode, we'll keep you up to date with what's going on in and around the region. Now, these are very challenging times, and one good way to keep in touch with events as they happen is to get a copy of the Irish Community News, which is always a great read. The November edition I really enjoyed looking through. As always, I particularly enjoyed reading Brian McNally's interview with David McCreary, the former Manchester United and Newcastle United captain. A real character. I spent some time in Belfast and Derry working with him in a soccer school a few years ago, and we had some great times together. So I'd highly recommend that. Now, during these really challenging times, you can't really do much better if you want to relax than get a good read. Sit down and switch off. It doesn't compensate for the lack of physical contact and seeing your friends, but it certainly helps you escape. And on that note, I'd like to welcome our first guest, Pauline Hughes.
Hi, nice to meet you.
And you, thank you very much for agreeing to give us some of your time. I know you're very busy. In fact, you've just been, this is late on Sunday, and I know you've been all day in Sunderland doing something quite exciting.
Reading some poems and having them filmed for a project that's run by a poet friend of mine who's also a Nigerian pastor in Sunderland. It's a project about the paintings and stained glass windows in this beautiful old church which he's taken over.
Well, Pauline, would you mind just telling us a little bit about how you first got involved with the Tyneside Irish Cultural Society?
I moved to Tyneside in 2003 after living in Middlesbrough for 20-something years, where my kids grew up, actually. I was working at the art college. Then I got a better job at Northumbria Uni, and I commuted, and then eventually I moved. And I used to go to odd events at the Irish Centre, but because I lived in Middlesbrough, it wasn't convenient to go that often. And then when I moved here, I used to go to odd events like the festival, readings at the festivals, music events, lectures, and then eventually I became a member.
Well, you're involved in setting up the book group, which is going to be on Zoom after the Christmas period. Is that right?
Yes, we haven't met this year since, I think we met in January. It just seems so long ago. And we haven't met since then. I belong to another book group, and we have actually met a couple of times on Zoom there. And I thought, well, why can't we do it for the Irish book club? And I contacted Carmel, and she said she would see about it. I think she's too busy at the moment. And so she asked me if I was willing to organize a Zoom, would I do it? And I thought, well, I tried it out with the other group, so why not? We are quite a small group, and we are an older group. In fact, we're all quite ancient, actually. We did have a few young people pop in from time to time a few years ago, but they didn't have the staying power. But us oldies have been doing this for some years now, and we've got through quite a few books, which is nice. We're all focused on reading novels, and we've done some travel and life writing as well, but all by writers who are living in Ireland or originally from Ireland and may have moved for job purposes to other countries, but they're basically Irish writers and they're writing about Irish society.
I wish you the very best of luck with the book group. It sounds like a fantastic set of people and an opportunity to share views and learn new things and enjoy perhaps new writers as well.
Indeed, I mean, it's opened my eyes to some of the younger writers that I wasn't familiar with. People like Donal Ryan, people like Sally Rooney, who we read a few years ago now. It's good to know that the writing is so vibrant and alive, and yeah, it's there, it's good.
What's the next book that you're going to be looking at?
The next book we're looking at is by Brian Layden. It's not a novel, it's life writing. He grew up in Arigna in a coal mining community in County Roscommon, and it's a book set in the 70s and 80s when he was a boy and then a lad, then a youngish man, early 20s, and it looks at the life in the village and the people around him, And it's also very beautiful because he writes about the landscape, the mountains and the countryside and the fields. And it's a lovely evocation of a part of Ireland which is largely rural, but also because of the mines has an industrial element. And the lives of the miners were very hard. And his own father was a miner. And so it covers that aspect of life too. It's a very beautiful book. It's moving in parts, it's sometimes funny, and he's a wonderful writer. He's written other things, but this is a non-fiction life writing piece.
I'd like to wish you all the very best, and thanks very much for your time, Pauline. It's greatly appreciated, and good luck with everything.
Okay, thank you very much.
At school, I loved history. It was really important to me, and I kind of worry about the fact that so many young people don't seem to know some very basic historical knowledge. However, the Irish Centre has a library, and there's some amazing work going on there, and it's basically being coordinated by a wonderful woman who started off as a volunteer quite a few years back, and I'm going to bring her in now because I'm really pleased that she's given up some time to chat to us. So hi Bridget, how are you doing? Bridget Lowery.
Hi Michael, I'm fine, thank you.
How did you first get involved with the Irish Centre?
Well, I've actually only been involved 3 years, and I was doing a writing course, picked up a flyer for a history course, met Tony, who introduced me to the bags of books in his attic, in the Irish Centre attic, which I volunteered to catalogue, and that's what I've been doing. And from there, I'm now involved in the project that is lottery funded on the Tyneside Irish Brigade. It's very, very specific, and we now have a growing but brilliant team of people around us, all involved in that.
I haven't been up into the library space, but how many books are up there?
Hundreds and hundreds, and there are some very niche subjects up there. So some of those books you won't get repeated anywhere else because there will have only been one run. There will have never been the necessity for a second run. I catalogue them. The most interesting bit is the précis, because I then have to know what each book is about in a reasonable amount of detail, so that anybody coming in can search for the books, and we have various means of them searching. You can do it on the computer, have a printout of the Excel sheet, and I also make reference cards with the photograph of each book on the back, so that you know what you're actually looking for when you search it.
The Tyneside Irish Brigade, what are you're researching that currently? Are you looking for information from people?
We are looking to do a travelling exhibition, which has been halted because of the COVID. However, we decided to plug ahead, and we're doing the research background for it all. So we want to take the exhibition to hard to reach areas like pit villages in the northeast, where lots and lots of men will have enlisted for the Tyneside Irish Brigade, and maybe their people will come to our exhibition and it'll just spark something, and they will ask us to research their family, or we will help them to research their family.
That sounds really interesting, and I can't wait to see that exhibition. You also, I believe, looking into the history of the Irish Centre itself.
Yes, that's just a personal project. I get a lot of support, generally anyway, from Tony Corcoran and Barbara Flynn. And they've given me people to contact in relation to that. But of course, I did start that as well, just as COVID hit. So it's difficult. Everything I do is on the phone. I couldn't get into the library archives because I live in the other side of Darlington, don't live in Newcastle, and things like that. But maybe as things open up again, I can get in. But I have been in touch with a few people and phoned, and I always get this priest's name wrong, but I think it's Pertil, Father Pertil,
yeah,
who gave me information on Father Travis, who was the curate of St. Michael's at the time that the Irish Club had moved to, got it there, I think it's Westgate Road. and told me stories like Father Travis arranged a group called Around the Fire, which was literally just telling stories and songs, wanted to move it on. The Polish club gave him the use of the ground floor cellar as well as the room that he had. So Father Travis and friends dug it out so that they could put barrels in, so that it could become more of a social club. They had to raise funds because they were doing this from nothing. And one of the things they did was they walked from Leeds Irish Centre back to Newcastle Irish Centre as a sponsored walk. And when I found out about that, I asked around, and I can't remember if it was Barbara or it might have been Carol Hill, managed to find somebody who had an original flyer for that. Now that would be back in either the late 60s or the early 70s when they did that. So we were very lucky. So we now have something to archive as well, in relation to that. So it's finding out these stories, but it goes back further than that. The Irish Club, the Irish Centre, goes back to 1871 when Bernard McAnulty chaired a committee to set up an Irish club because of the incoming workers from Ireland, and there were many, many, many of them all over the northeast, not just in Tyneside.
Sounds absolutely fascinating, and it's lovely to hear. You know, I'm just visualizing my grandfather and my great grandfather, and imagining, you know, how close they were when they first came, when my great granddad came over.
Yes.
You know, how close he was to any of this, you know, and to the Irish Centre and Irish Club. Really fascinating stuff, Bridget, and I really appreciate your time. I also, you know, on behalf of everyone who follows the Tyneside Irish Cultural Society podcast, say thank you for all the work you put in, because, you know, there's an awful lot of work goes on behind the scenes, and sometimes we sort of just take it for granted. And just to let you know, it's greatly appreciated. So thank you very much for coming on.
It's a labour of
a labour of love. I love it. Yeah, fantastic. And, you know, it's lovely talking to you. You take care and stay safe.
Okay, thank you very much, Michael.
Thanks, Bridget. Due to the lockdown and the COVID situation, support for the most vulnerable and the elderly in our community has never been quite so important, not in recent times anyway. And there are a team of magnificent people involved in helping people with phone lines, food parcels, keeping in touch, phone calls. And I'm really pleased we've got Carol Hill here. Hiya, Carol, how are you doing?
Hi, bit nervous, but fine.
You look fabulous on camera, Carol. There's nothing to worry about. Now, Carol, I know that you do, you know, a wide range of things. You organise out of the Northeast Irish Network. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Well, basically 4 organisations that have come together to create the network. So we've got the Tyneside Irish Cultural Society. Sorry, that's my cat meowing.
I've got it. I bet it's not. Go on, is it there?
Yes.
Can you pick it up? And
actually, it never bothers with us, and now it's like she's angry.
Oh, fabulous! I've got a cat who's twice the size of that, called Pirate. And if you look at my hand, can you see the scratches? Ooh.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. Never work with animals or children. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the work that you do?
Yes, we have got 4 organisations in the Northeast that have come together for the Northeast Irish Network. So we've got the Tyneside Irish Cultural Society, the Tyneside Irish Centre, Teesside Irish Society, and the GAA teams. We've got a ladies and a men's team up here. So we've worked together to form the network, and we have so far delivered about 450 parcels, which aren't necessarily for the needy. They're goodie bags to make people know that we're still here, still connecting people together. We've delivered and produced lots of these newsletters, and if you haven't had it, it's online. Or if you know somebody who would like a hard copy, we can get that to them as well. We've also made phone calls and just checked that friendship circles are in touch with each other, just so they know people are here in the community and that we haven't gone anywhere.
Because most of us are trapped in the house most of the time now. We're all missing out on that physical contact. But when you're involved in food parcels and things like that, you see how needy and how vulnerable some people are. Does it have a personal impact on you at times?
It does, and I've had phone calls to say thank you, that it had been the first person that they'd seen for months, especially in the first lockdown where we were really strict. Some people hadn't seen anybody or had a knock on the door for 3 or 4 months. And so when they phone to say thank you or send a little message or a letter or a card, it does make a big impact, and it just makes you want to do it even more, really. It's like a little security.
Yeah.
Pushing to know that there's other people there, and people that we've put in touch or we've written the names in the newsletter, and then their friends from the past have got back in touch to know that they're being looked after, which is good. There's quite a few actually like that. Yeah. Even younger people as well. We've got a couple of high priority cases of younger people who we've been offering extra support to.
It's with people with disabilities. You know, I know generally there will be some family support or a carer, but you know, it really is tough for a lot of people at the moment, isn't it?
It is, and we've got quite a few people who are support for the families. So people whose either the parents or the wives or husbands have Alzheimer's or dementia, and so letting them know that we're here, even if there's not that much we can do physically, but just so that they know we're here to give a phone call to, or if they need a bit of shopping done, just to have a chat. And Irish in Britain put out a lot of information about different people with dementia, and just being able to get other organisations involved as well.
If anybody wants to offer any support or help and volunteer in any way, how can they go about that?
They can email tyneirishcs@gmail.com, and we need volunteers. Because we've set ourselves up with a massive task for Christmas, we have been putting out parcels on a monthly basis, and we thought it would be a really good idea to bring some Christmas cheer to people. But now we have the task of putting out maybe 500 parcels within a week. So we really need some little helpers to put those parcels out. We've got about 45 volunteers already, but obviously the more volunteers we have, the more people we can get round to.
Well, you've got one here. I'll come and help, because I can drive and drop stuff off if you want. I'm
that
sure
Gerald's sorted.
That's it. Get in. I might see some family members. You never know.
We'll
the way to break the rules. Unfortunately, no cuddling though. That's awful, isn't it? Carol, you know, it's lovely talking to you. I've been in meetings with you, and you always impress me, because you're full of life and positivity. And I just want to say thank you on behalf of everyone who you're helping, because you know, so much work goes on that people don't realise, and it is appreciated.
Well, there is a big team. There's obviously Tony Corcoran is the man, but he organised such a good management committee for the North East Irish Network. So we do have 2 of the lads from the GA team. We've got people spread all over. We've got representatives obviously from each organisation, but that team works really well together under Tony's management, of course. Yeah. And then within that, we've got people who work for the Cultural Society who are really pulling it together as well.
Every single person I talk to talks about how much Tony puts in, and he's an amazing figurehead. And you know, I know everyone truly appreciates what he's put in as well. So, Carol, I just want to say a huge thank you. If I don't see you before Christmas, well, hopefully I will if I come and collect bits and pieces and drop them around Jarrow.
Right, I'll put your name down.
Put your name down, I'll do that. All the very best to you and to your family, and take care. Thanks for your time.
You too. Cheers, Michael.
Thank you. Okay, I think this is our 5th podcast, and over the past 5 months, I've tried on more than one occasion to include in the podcast Gemma Telfer, who's an extremely talented musician and teacher, and she's been working with lots of our local members of the community, teaching them and performing for them through the Irish Centre. And I'm really pleased that we have her in the November podcast. So hello, Gemma, lovely to see you.
Hello, thank you very much for having me on, Michael. I've finally made it.
Yeah, it's great to see you. And I know how busy you are, and you've been teaching tonight. Could you tell me how the classes have been going? And is this the last class of the section of classes that you've been running?
Yeah, so a few of the group members, obviously we used to meet in person in the Irish Centre every Thursday night. And at the beginning of the lockdown, there was a few messages going around saying, why don't we have a go on Zoom? So it took a few goes to get it up and running, and obviously the logistics of it, you know, everyone muting microphones and listening to me play the tunes. But it was fantastic to have some type of structure during the lockdown. So we've just continued going on, and we've now just finished up the winter term. So that's been 8 weeks. And yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. You know, we keep playing tunes from one of the tune books that I've written, and everyone sort of jumps in and submits their own tunes, and it's just really nice to have something like that we can all keep catching up each week, and something to look forward to really at this time. So yeah, it's been fantastic, and hopefully more in 2021.
It's really refreshing to hear a music teacher talking about the compositions and also the compositions of the students. It's really refreshing, because a lot of the time we just play other people's music, and composition is so important. You've done some quite, amazing things so far with your music career. I know, how old were you when you actually started?
Well, I was about sort of 9 or 10 when I saw somebody playing the piano accordion in a local pub in Northumberland. And I said to my mum, oh, I think I'd like to play the accordion. And I think our heart sank, to be honest, to begin with. But I had lessons in school, and it was very heavy trying to carry that on the school bus. But I persevered, and it was totally by chance that I fell upon the Tyneside Irish Centre, really, because my grandma saw an article in the paper and it said summer school Tyneside Irish Centre, and I thought that sounds good, so went along, and to be honest, never really looked back. It's been, the Irish Centre have supported me so much throughout my career, and especially Tony, really grateful for everything that he's done for me, because really I wouldn't be where I am now if it wasn't for Tony and the team. So super grateful for what they've done for me, definitely.
You sort of, you ooze enthusiasm, you love what you do, and that's refreshing as well. What do you get out of teaching? What's the satisfaction you get out of it?
I think it's fantastic, really, especially the Irish Centre classes, because it's such a social side of it as well. It's more you're meeting up with friends, and then you're able to share your repertoire. And to be honest, I absolutely love it. It's not my full-time job. I'm actually an audiologist, but there's such a link there between obviously how we hear music and play. But it takes me to a different part of my life, and it's just nice to have something totally different to focus on. And it just makes me really happy. Playing tunes, there's nothing better, and listening to other people. I think you learn so much from listening. And so that's why I think it's important to share other members of the group's tunes. It's just more like a session, and it really is lovely.
We're living in really tough times at the moment with the lockdowns, and it's just been announced today that we're level 3 at the end of the month lockdown. So it's not like we're out in the clear yet, and it seems it's really important now more than ever for the social interaction as we approach Christmas. Are you going to continue? I know you've got a break now in lessons, but could you continue perhaps on Zoom with anything?
Oh, definitely. So it's really important to keep the group going, especially now, as we've heard, obviously we're going into tier 3. So yeah, we'll keep sharing tunes, having a little session on Zoom, and we just go around and one person will play a tune and we all join in. And yeah, it just really is fantastic. And to be honest, the hour, we end up probably going nearly well over an hour and a half, just we're chatting away. Somebody will say a tune, we'll play the Bladen Races. We don't just play Irish tunes, we throw everything into the mix, because it's important to keep some of our Geordie tunes definitely on the go as well.
Absolutely. Would you do us a favour and play us a lovely tune? Play us out. That would be absolutely lovely. Can I just say, it's lovely to see you. You've got an infectious smile, and we need more of that right now. So thank you very much for your time, and I really appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. It's honestly, it's my pleasure. And just if anyone wants to join the class, we would very much love to welcome you in 2021.